Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. I wanted to start with a prompt, and if you feel compelled to type a response into the comments below, and that is, what is a form of wisdom that you feel has come just naturally with age? Wisdom will be the topic for discussion today. But as always, first we will start with a 15-minute guided meditation, and then I'll follow that up with some reflections, with some thoughts on wisdom. Finding any way to sit that feels good for you for the next 15 minutes or so. Upright if that's possible, or just really whatever feels like supportive for your body in this moment. You can allow the eyes to close, or you can just rest your gaze softly on the floor, whatever is in front of your vision. And we'll begin with a few longer, slower, deeper breaths just to stretch out the lungs and release any tension that's not needed in this moment. As we turn inwards towards this mental, emotional cultivation of wisdom. And then allowing the breath to return to normal. And coming to this intention, bringing to mind why it is you're here meditating right now. My guess or my hope is that there's some desire for a deeper sense of well-being or freedom or peace in the mind. So with that intention, bringing your full presence of mind to this rhythm of the breath. Noticing the quality and the texture of the inhalation, of the exhalation. Just using the simple rhythm of the breath as an anchor for the mind. Relaxing the muscles of the face, of the forehead. Allowing the muscles of the mind and the jaw to relax. And same with the shoulders, just letting the shoulders fall back naturally. Breathing through the chest, allowing this relaxing of the shoulders to open the chest up fully, so we can soften down through the abdomen and the belly. What's it like for this belly to receive the breath? Can we know the breath from the belly, the stomach? And we're fully releasing on each exhale in the muscles of the abdomen, particularly the lower belly. And feeling into the weight of the arms and the hands. Scanning downwards to the legs, feeling the connection to the cushion or the floor. And relaxing the muscles of the legs. What is it like to breathe into and from the muscles of the legs? Almost as if the legs themselves were the ones doing the breathing. Softening down through the thighs, the calves, the shins, and the feet. Coming into this deep knowing in the body. This knowing which permeates, which pervades the entire nervous system of the body. So opening to a wide awareness of this body, just breathing as it is. There is a deep wisdom within. Underneath all of the preoccupations of the mind, the planning or rumination, there's this simple non-conceptual knowing. This deep capacity for openness, for spaciousness. So imagining that all of the thoughts, all of the worries and concerns of the day or the week are just like particles of dust that are just slowly settling down to the ground. With each exhalation, all of these particles of the mind just come to a stillness on the ground or the floor. No need to pick them up. Right now, the body just needs to breathe and find a sense of stillness, a sense of ease, an effortless effort, simply through staying with the breath. And as this dust begins to settle, noticing the quality of openness which is uncovered. This great resource of the mind, which is a gift, a gift of being alive. This deep knowing of the heart. When all of the dust settles, who are you? Does this knowing have a texture? Does it have a personality? Just being curious and allowing the mind to rest in this awareness and using this rhythm of the breath to just ground the attention whenever it wanders or strays. It's very simple. Here. And for this last minute or so, really recognizing the quality of awareness which is uncovered in meditation. Recognizing that it's always here, always accessible, and one can tap into this intuitive wisdom at any time. Whenever you feel ready, allowing the eyes to open if they were closed, coming back into your space, so the topic today is wisdom. I've been going through this series on the 10 Paramis, and we've covered generosity, virtue, and renunciation or minimalism. And today we're going to discuss some of the aspects of wisdom which emerge in some of the early Buddhist teachings. So this human mind is malleable, and in the simple practice and a meditation of returning the mind, coming to the breath, returning to whatever the object is, there's an exercise of this degree of choice, letting the mind know that at any time there is this capacity to come back, to return to this innate clarity or wisdom. And doing this practice over time, some of the patterns of the mind which can feel quite embedded can begin to loosen and to become a little more optional. And so as the mind begins to see this in a particular way, and it's known deeply, some of the distress being engulfed in this pattern of thinking, and then the freedom of not engaging in it, there can be the arising of what's called insight. This wisdom of the mind where it sees on its own the affliction of being caught up in a particular pattern of mind, the freedom of being released from it. And when it's seen in a particular way, it can be irreversible. The mind can see it so clearly that it can say, never going to pick that up again, enough. The 1,000th time of repeating this thought or this regret or shame or whatever it is, the release can begin to happen all on its own through this quality called insight. So I'm going to talk about a few different kinds of wisdom today. The wisdom of learning, the more, I guess, traditional wisdom, you could say, the wisdom of reflecting on something, parsing it through in one's own mind, and then this kind of non-conceptual wisdom, which can arise in meditation. So to start with the learning form of wisdom, it can be really helpful when picking up a meditation practice to go beyond just meditating and learning some of the philosophy or the psychology which goes along with some of these ancient teachings. I know for myself, when I came to Buddhist teachings for the first time, I was very open to learning a new way of working with my mind, like anything else other than what I'm doing currently. I'm open to trying it because what I'm doing is not working. Now, this learning aspect of learning teachings and some of the conceptual knowledge can be underemphasized sometimes in spiritual traditions. This more non-conceptual knowing being a little bit more to the forefront because it is what's, I guess, unique about meditative wisdom. But the practice of learning can be really beneficial. It can help the mind have a map of where it's going. And memorization was particularly a huge part of some of the early emergence of Buddhism. It was passed down orally for 500 years, these teachings, before they were even written down. And I'm in a group that I'm attending myself right now, and each month we'll have a phrase or almost like a little mantra as something to memorize and to come back to. For this last month, it was, there's no past, there's no future, there is no self, only here, only now, only this. And so memorizing that is kind of like a reminder. It's something I've learned, it's conceptual, but it's used in a way to enhance my meditation practice, a way to bring it off the cushion. And one of the maps that I've found most helpful is the Four Noble Truths. This idea of acknowledging suffering, acknowledging the cause of this suffering to be craving, this unnecessary suffering which arises from craving and clinging and attaching, that there is a release from this suffering and a path towards it. This is something that I've come back to again and again. Once I learned it conceptually, whenever I have found myself suffering, I've been able to use that map and say, okay, where is there clinging? Where is there attachment? How can I release to it? How release from it? How can I come back to this path of practice? Another skill of wisdom is reflecting. Knowledge, rather than for just being for accumulation, these concepts, and particularly in Buddhist teachings, are meant to be reflected on and really taken in deeply into the mind. One of the most famous suttas from the early Buddhist teachings is called the Kalama Sutta. And so the Buddha was wandering with his monks through an area called Kosala and came across a group of people called the Kalamas. And the people in this area, they tell the Buddha, like, there's all these spiritual teachers coming through here, and they all more or less have a similar message, which is that their teachings are right and everyone else is wrong. This is the only true way. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you, but that's something I've heard quite a bit from various religious traditions in my life, and part of what turned me off from it. And so they ask the Buddha, they say, how do we know what's true? And so the Buddha encourages them to reflect in a few different ways. First, he says, one thing to consider, are they coming from a place of greed, of self-gain? If so, might be some ill intentions involved. Secondly, are they coming from a place of ill will? Also, maybe not to be trusted. And then finally, is there any degree of delusion? Are they full of it? Does it sound really out there? So the Buddha's saying to, in a sense, question the motivation of the teacher. And then he also goes on to say, do not go upon what has been acquired by repeated hearing, nor upon tradition, nor upon rumor, nor upon what is in a scripture, nor upon surmise, supposing something is true, nor upon an axiom, nor upon specious reasoning, something that is seemingly true but false, nor upon bias towards a notion that has been pondered upon over, nor upon another's seeming ability, nor upon the consideration, well, the monk is our teacher. He says, the Buddha says, Kalamas, when you yourselves know these things are good, these things are not blamable, these things are praised by the wise, undertake it and observe. These things lead to benefit and happiness. Enter on and abide in them. So, what's the takeaway message from this? Question things that you're learning, reflect on them. Don't necessarily, because someone else is saying it's true or because it's tradition or whatever else. He's really saying, reflect on it in your own mind, see if it works. And the same encouragement he encouraged to question his own teachings, actually. Not to be taken at face value, but to be taken into the heart and seen if they're true. So this is this reflective wisdom. And then finally, there's this non-conceptual wisdom, which comes through meditation. So the importance, or one of the central points of importance in developing meditation, is to uncover this kind of non-conceptual wisdom, to uncover a sense of freedom and a capacity for a deep spaciousness of a mind which is non-attached. A deep sense of compassion. So every time in meditation, when we're returning, developing concentration or compassion, it's for this purpose of freeing the mind and freeing the heart. One of the unique aspects of Buddhist meditation is that it's not geared towards just cultivating a healthy self. Now, there are parts of it which are geared towards cultivating a healthy self. Healthy forms of communication, developing skillful actions and interpersonal relations, which are harmonious, peaceful, which aren't afflictive. So there is some degree of cultivating a self, which is not causing harm. But it also points towards going beyond a self. And in particularly, these early Buddhist teachings point towards seeing three characteristics: the impermanence of all phenomena, the unsatisfactory nature of attaching to things, and the not self quality of all experience. So even in this body and in my own mind, everything is in flux, everything is changing. So no permanent lasting self to attach to. As an example of this, I was ruminating about a decision that I made a few weeks back, noticing this feeling coming up again and again of, I made a bad decision. Me, this person, had made this bad decision, and regret and just wishing I had done something differently. But using this lens, one, seeing all of the other conditions coming into play other than just me, noticing it was actually a lot of external conditions and causes coming into play in that moment that caused me to make that decision, helped the mind release. I was walking from my office at one point down the hallway, and I watched my mind go back and want to pick this thing up again. And I saw the unsatisfactory nature of doing this again and again, saw the impermanence and how this will change, and the mind began to let go all on its own. And in that moment, there was this shift that we can call insight, where the mind sees the pain of doing something and can begin to let go. And through cultivating meditation, we can start to expose the mind to this state or to this quality of mind which goes beyond the grasping of the self into something which is deeply unconditioned and peaceful. The Buddha taught this as nibbana, or the deathless. And in this moment, there can be this dissolving of self and other into something which is unfabricated and deeply restful and peaceful. So why engage with all of this? We have learning and reflecting and meditating. The idea being that if one shows up for the practice, over time the practice will show up for you. These things, these skills that we cultivate in the mind and the heart in a daily meditation practice, when cultivated and practiced over time, there will be a momentum to that practice. So when you are in a difficult moment, or a key or a pivotal moment in your life, this practice can begin to show up. That sense of freedom or of ease can become stronger. The mind can start to see patterns of deep grasping and begin to let go all on its own. This is the deep intuitive wisdom which can arise through meditation. So I thank you for your time. If you have found this beneficial, I just encourage you to subscribe. So thank you for your time, and be well.